Hello, everyone.
Hi, Evan. Hi,
Happy
everyone.
Monday.
Happy Monday. Yeah.
Today is the 22nd. Great.
Hello. Just updating with a couple links in the project doc.
I see we've got a bunch of project status progress items. Do we want to go over those quickly? Does anyone have any discussion topics they want to bring up? I have one small discussion topic, but
Why don't you go first?
okay. So we got the necessary 2 approvals to check in a README for the initiative, which kind of establishes a directory in CNCF TOC for us. And I'm wondering if we also want to go ahead and add a code owners entry for the directory. And if so, who we want to put in the code owners. I was going to start by suggesting maybe the set of people currently attending the meeting, but if there were other people or people who wanted to bow out, like that was what the discussion was about.
Okay. I haven't heard from Brant yet. I know that he's working on some stuff that will involve potentially that. By code owners, do you mean approval to merge? Or
I mean the GitHub code owners, yeah. Review request, merge, all that stuff. I don't recall if code owners is hierarchical or not.
I believe the way the TOC has it set up now is in the root, there's a code owners. I could go look.
Well, so there's a file in the root
Right,
that
that
defines
defines
all of the
branches.
ownership patterns.
I think you
But
can put code owners nested as well, but
nope,
I'm not sure. Is that not the
you
case?
you cannot.
Okay.
My question was actually if you have a PR and the files match a specific entry in code owners, and they also match a more general entry in code owners, can either approve? I don't know the answer. I can go look it up.
How's everybody doing? Happy Monday.
I think I got out of the documentation HTML JavaScript mines, so that's a win.
Oh, were you where you would
I spent all last week trying to get search and versioning and stuff like that working on the Knative website, which
I was gonna say for Knative graduation stuff.
it's sort of a put best foot forward when the announcement comes out kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
And it turns out version documentation is hard.
For sure.
In a bunch of ways you don't think about. Like, if you've got testimonials, those are probably not versioned. If you've got a blog, that's probably not reasonably versioned. But your technical documentation is. But if you want to search the documentation, you probably don't want to find all the different versions of your documentation on autoscaling.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I guess we would make a PR to the code owners file that.
Yep. I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
But
cool.
That was a future decision that I wanted people's opinion on.
Yeah, that would be cool. Like if I keep straight like what hat I'm wearing when and where, I'm like a pseudo active community member of tag security and compliance. So but I'm
or of that particular sub piece of it.
Right. And I'm trying to drive this initiative or contribute to it rather. So that'd be cool. Yeah, so once we have that in place, I have a couple positional papers on, or docs rather, on the approach that other papers I'm taking. I have new versions of that coming out that I've been working on over the last week, but I could get to that later.
Was there anything from last meeting that, because I wasn't able to get caught up on that one yet, but I saw that we had put the initial issues in. Are we gonna maybe go over those, talk about what outputs we expect from each of those?
Yeah.
That
so
would be Matt.
I had put a couple things on the agenda for today to do just that.
Perfect.
And I will preface this with saying I haven't played with the new GitHub projects and the roadmap feature, and I found it a little bit maddening. So some of these issues are going to have like a bunch of like changes in there. But I think I didn't try to go too granular on any of that. Do we want to talk about that now?
I think so, unless there's something else. I'm assuming this also maps to the first agenda item, create an initial high-level project to track work.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm pulling that up now. So I kind of blocked out, so I made a new label, SC initiative, SCSI for supply chain security initiative. And I thought it was cute that it was SCSI. Oh, somebody else joined for the first time. I just noticed. Sorry, I had too many windows. Welcome. It's just
keep going.
Okay.
Don't disrupt your
right. So there doesn't seem to be a way to do much without having a label. And there was only one other example of a label for an initiative that the TOC had made. So I just followed their format so that we're not.
Do you want me to present the board? Do you want to present the board? I think it would be useful for people to see what we're talking about.
Yes. Sure. Do you want to? And I can talk?
I can
Or,
do that.
I mean, everyone should have access to it. And there's obviously things missing here. I
It
think
can
Jen
sometimes
had
be
said,
helpful for everyone to be literally on the same page, though. So
yeah, and keep in mind, like the actual specific timelines and things are just absolutely arbitrary. But I don't have this all completely sorted yet. But if you go back to the roadmap tab, because some of these are, so I found that the iterations that by default it imposes of like 2-week iterations make a lot of sort of drama when planning this out, because we don't have like a full team with a project
let's not
manager.
worry about them.
So
Let's only use the
right. So
tools that work.
I removed them. And so it's just start date, end date. I'm still trying to figure out how to do Gantz like Jira does Gantz, right? Like where if you move something, all of the sub projects also, all the subtasks also move.
Think you may be
But I think I'm
achieving a high degree of precision, but not a high degree of accuracy.
correct. Yes. Well, what I was going to say is I don't see that functionality in there. So what I did was kind of what Jens had suggested a few weeks ago, which is just block out some high level things and then make sub issues. And it does seem to remember the hierarchy between issues and sub issues. And I'm still trying to get it to display right. But at a high level, we had talked about like one main sort of epic around, well, I think the very first one there, 1873, we're basically done with. That was just to capture our first set of meetings and discussions. But we had talked about an epic or a work stream around making reference architectures and tools, which would encompass what I've been working on, what I know Brant had said he was working on in terms of an air-gapped Zarf for guac, which is a lot of acronyms all at once. And then an epic around curating educational resources around the CRA that would likely be not things that we author per se, but more curate, since there are so many existing resources. And that in my mind would encompass blogs and things like that, but I haven't planned that out because I figured we could do that collaboratively or as we go. But I did try to put some context into these, and some of these initial, to-dos are just an initial whack, but like everything here should be viewed as just a starting point. Right. And then I had kind of made most of the things end in around mid-November. I didn't know if we wanted to like focus on having things ready for KubeCon, or if we should just have KubeCon not really factor into how we portion deliverables.
I'm not sure that there's a particular reason to line things up with KubeCon, and there may be anti-reasons depending on who has presentations and other things that they need to line up for KubeCon.
Yeah, like I don't personally have any content for KubeCon that I'm targeting. I know Brant had talked about doing something with, he was driving the
Brant has at least one talk with me.
right, but he had mentioned
Jen has two.
Jen has two. Okay, so Jen, are your talks about the CRA or about supply chain stuff, or are they unrelated?
They are about, one is about the OSPS baseline, and that one's with Evan. Yeah. And I have another one about compliance in general, not particularly about CRA.
Okay, so then we don't need to. It doesn't sound like there's any content in KubeCon that comes out of this initiative that we're planning on.
However, setting a deadline that lines up with other content we have to produce may cause us to just hear that whooshing sound as deadlines go by.
Right. Yeah. So I kind of wanted to see what people's, what people wanted to work on. I haven't led an initiative like this. That's just a coalition of the willing. Right. So, that's why I said the dates that are on some of these and even the specifics about what would be worked on is really going to be driven by what people can or want to work on, versus anything that I would dictate. So I also didn't start this one yet, right? This starts, I think, in the future next week or something, starting on October 1st. So we could kind of talk about it first and see what people's resourcing is and what they're interested in. I'm happy to help do this. I've already kind of started some of the. I have a million tabs. But what do y'all think on?
Have you identified which items are the long polls?
Yeah, well, the long polls for the initiative in general, I think would be some of the tooling stuff. Because right
Or
now,
the long polls for reaching milestone 1, potentially?
No, I guess because things aren't explicitly spec'd out about like what we would be delivering. Again, I've tried to keep it a high level until I could get feedback from y'all about, what your calendars look like and what would make sense in terms of the CRA materials, for us to deliver.
I think for the CRA materials, at least from my perspective, it would make sense to look at what the OpenSSF Global Cyber Policy Working Group is creating. They have a lot of materials about CRA that they're publishing. I think it's from multiple perspectives, like the steward perspective, the end user perspective. And it seems to me like it would make sense to take that and just contextualize it like with what this initiative is building would actually help you achieve a certain subset of that. And a blog output, I think, makes sense to me, or a presentation like you already have. So I just wanted to add that, maybe even going back to that group for feedback as well.
Sure. Awesome. Yeah, there's also some things that I think I read in the V2 of the supply chain paper that came out of the CNCF that was talked about a few weeks ago that also has some content as well. Less focused on the CRA, but more on just best practices and things like that. Yeah, I must admit, I dove into the OpenSSF groups over the last couple of weeks and attended a couple of them and just found a huge amount of existing papers that are almost interleaving and interrelated and at various versions. And it's, I like to hoover in information, but it made my brain full really fast. So
We are not lacking for content in this area.
yeah. Cool. Oh, I can add one right here that's actually missing. And it's the outreach to projects. Sure. What do you think makes sense in terms of milestones to drive towards, just to help us organize?
So
I wasn't sure if you meant that we should make the first milestone after KubeCon, because trying to kind of fill up
I
time
thought that we'd
between
agreed
them.
that our first milestone was having a deployable configuration that we could use to answer the CNCF questions,
Oh, okay, sure.
right?
So the data capture tool, you mean not, or do you mean actually ingesting SBOMs and sort of like the full end to end?
The full end-to-end, like, here's a cluster. It has some software on it. We've captured the SBOMs of that software, and now we want to ask if there was a license rug pull on piece of software X, which of the components would be affected? If there were a vulnerability in library Y, which of the components would need to be upgraded?
Okay, I mean, yeah, that sounds like our definition of done, right? Like once we have, well, not
No, I
done,
think
but
that will teach us what questions we really want to answer.
I see. Oh, okay. I had thought you wanted to keep it really narrowly scoped to just those two questions.
I would like to start by achieving those two questions.
I see. Okay.
And once we do that, we'll realize why they're the wrong questions. And we can go in and learn from that and make more progress. But until we have a system that can do that, trying to elaborate more stuff on top of it doesn't really make sense.
Oh, cool. So we merged this.
Yeah, I just merged it. Yes.
Oh, okay. Because I looked this morning. Awesome.
It got an approval like 10 minutes ago, the second one that it needed. Thank you, Jen. And boom. And with the code owners, we'll be able to get more people to approve. But
Awesome.
But yes, I think that should be I think we agreed that would be our milestone 1.
Okay.
I think once we have that milestone 1, maybe we'll discover that it's too hard to get those SBOMs. And that's where our future effort should be. Maybe we'll discover that the questions are actually not quite the questions you want to ask. Like maybe we really mean which libraries that are, which libraries would have the broadest impact if they had a license rug pull or a security vulnerability? Perhaps we want to ask, which libraries having Vex does Vex ingestion improve our results in terms of not needing to upgrade stuff? And if so, how? Like, there are a bunch of different angles that might make things better. Until we have a working system, we can't explore any of them.
Right. Okay. Well, that makes
So
sense.
let's build a working system, and then we will discover that it's all wrong, and we'll figure out, how to make it better because we have a thing to make better. My experience with software has always been that the first time I build it, it's wrong. I would love that this time it's not, but the track record's not looking good.
No, yeah. I mean, for software in general, not.
Yeah. Well, any software I've been involved with, I can't tell you about other people. There may be folks who just, drip jewels off their fingers, but I'm not one of them.
No, those are mythical beasts. They're not. That's not real.
Yeah, or maybe they're lying.
Okay. Yes, I think that I'm just looking at the first question. That's a slight variation that might be a little more broad. The CNCF scenario is, I think it was more on how do they know when a license has been changed in that big transitive dependency graph, which is a slightly different. But I think I like the way it's written now as well, because it's a little more broad and it's more like,
I think perhaps what we're worried about is the future, which we cannot foresee. But one could add extra annotations that say, hey, this library has community governance, this library has corporate governance, and then say, of the libraries that have corporate governance, which would be the worst ones to get rug pulled on, and then sort them by the chances that there is an actual rug pull. and then attempt to start migrating away from those. If I were attempting to, use this to derive value of future effort, I might try something like that. And I might also discover that that's the wrong question to be asking.
Right. So to that end, the number 1874, I'm iterating on that initial tool that I demoed last week. I've made it when I realized just how many repos, in my head, I've been thinking about, 230 odd projects, and they all have 3 releases, that the CNCF generally cares about. But then when we go look at like how many repos are actually involved in even one of those, like, Kubernetes or OpenTelemetry, there's a ton of repos. I've kind of iterated on the tool a little bit, and I'm about done with something that doesn't just make a bunch of JSON that you then have to deal with, but dumps it to normalized Parquet, so we can just run some analytics on what is going to be a much larger data set. And so this is, by the way, a tool for those.
Have we looked at a small data set to make sure it makes sense?
Yeah, I'm doing
Okay.
that's what that issue is now, like assess the state of CNCF project artifacts. I started with the list, I think like Sigstore Cosine and a couple of others. But and then also, I guess this is look at the notes. I heard back, so I believe it's Fasila. I've not heard her name pronounced, but from the Istio project, she put together a document. She just reached out directly and said, "Hey, I put together this document that kind of captures efforts within that project, which stalled ostensibly some time ago, but she was involved or drove the initial creating of SBOMs using the bomb utility from, I believe, Kubernetes. So she's put that doc together, and she's taking that back to the Istio team to get some more specifics. But in terms of the case studies that we talked about, or reaching out to projects to see, like, what do you need? What's, how's it gone? What are you using? What would be useful? That's an initial conversation that she reached out to start, and she's going to circle back with a different version of that doc, I think, that is imbued with feedback from the team. I've also reached out to Linkerd. I figured if we're doing STO, we might as well do the other graduated. We have a graduated service mesh project as well there, to see how they do SBOMs and generation of project artifacts. But I think an Epic in our plan makes sense there, because we could fan that out in parallel and just do some outreach.
We also have that list of projects that we know are publishing SBOMs.
Correct.
Or at least are publishing something where their
Right.
documentation tells us that they have an SBOM.
Yes. I think the intention here, though, from Emily's feedback, I mean, I think we should do that, but we should also reach out to projects that maybe don't generate artifacts, right? Or are smaller or less.
Absolutely.
To see, like, what would be useful to them, what are the blockers for them, or
I think what I was suggesting was, for the tool that's collecting SBOMs,
right,
we should validate that it's finding SBOMs that for the projects that claim they have them, that match what the projects claim they produce.
Yes.
That seems like a base level cross check.
Yep. Yeah, I skipped ahead to a different topic. So so if we're still talking about that one.
Well, no, I'm just trying to connect, like, okay, we're getting this stuff from other stuff. Let's also make sure that we've, done those base level checks.
Right.
I find it's easy for us to get distracted by the frontier and not actually, do the underlying stuff. Not this group specifically, but CNCF in general.
Yeah. There's so much we could do. So So on the assessing the state of CNCF project artifacts, like from GitHub releases and looking at the files that are actually published when they cut releases. That's I see that as one work stream, but there's things that could be done that are not gated by that. Like, okay, if we're going to do an outreach to projects as has been recommended, you know, what would a questionnaire look like, or what would the same set of questions that we ask a bunch of projects look like, and that could be done in parallel, I think.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if anyone's interested in taking that on. My dance card's kind of full right now. I kind of want to finish some of the things that I'm working on now because I already have a little bit too many irons in the fire. But I can take a to-do to create an issue to track that too. AI?
Action item.
Oh, action item.
I'll spell it out. AI means we can't have nice things.
Yeah.
I'll let you interpret which AI that means. We're not that far from having bots that can watch notes and be like, I'll go create that issue for you wrongly so you can fix it when I'm done. So you'd mentioned another item that you felt like needed attention, which was curating the educational resources on the CRA.
Well, so it's 1876. I had put Jen and me on that just because I was initially looking at making this roadmappy thing look kind of sane. But I think we already covered that.
I guess I'm trying to encapsulate what we're currently working on. And it seems like the main things that we are working on are collecting SBOMs and figuring out what the CRA means for our effort.
Right. And by collecting SBOMs, I would say like finding where they lie, not actually collecting them and centralizing them anywhere just yet, but just crawling through.
Inventorying SBOMs.
Yeah, there we go. And in terms of the, educational materials on the CRA, I think I said that starts October 1st, just because I hadn't heard anyone.
Well, but it sounds like you've started doing some reading.
Yeah, I did a bunch of reading, but yes.
Presumably from educational materials.
Yeah, you're right.
It's okay.
Between planning and reality, right? Yeah.
But it sounds like you and Jen are doing that together, right?
Well, we haven't met yet about it. Again, I was trying to just capture what we had talked about and attaching Jen's name because there was interest. But
I was going to give Jen a chance to speak for a moment.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's why I'm saying, like, there's like a primordial plan, right? So
yes, I'm good with helping on this particular effort. And I think also reading educational materials as it's coming out. And then I think the main thing we would need is at least to understand the UX a little bit, just to say like this is how you would accomplish it, and maybe reviewing the questions too, like where do these questions overlap? Like that might help us understand, are these the questions we're supposed to be asking, and who wants to answer these questions? So
I mean, if
yeah.
you discover that
Yeah.
we're actually asking the wrong questions and we need to go back and adjust the milestone, that's a great outcome too.
Cool.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that might be step number one is reading. Are we asking the right questions for this use case? Maybe.
Yeah.
For sure.
Do we have a list of the readings or materials, or it will be started as a research point? Because
I can grab the ones I've been looking at. Maybe could we start like, do you want to put it right on, should we put it right on the GitHub issue? Should we create a GitHub, like working, or not GitHub, a Google Doc or something, just as like some working place, or do it in the notes?
yeah, it will be nice, like
Yeah.
result. Yeah, started to see, and everyone can take a look and read, and it will be help to have an opinion about this.
Yeah, I mean, it could just start as a catalog, sort of a big, a list of materials. I think a Google Doc makes sense.
My suggestion would be whatever you're doing, make sure it's something that new people can pop into and that people can leave feedback on how useful content was. At least a, 1 to 3 stars thing, possibly a, for the effort I put in, how much, value did I get out? Because, it's possible to get like a 40-page document that includes everything, but like it's 40 pages that you have to get through. And so like there's a day. And there's a second one that's like, a high level explainer that doesn't give you everything, but is like 2 pages.
Yeah, almost like
And so it may be more valuable to point people to the 2-pager first, and then they'll have a map for everything else.
I mean, we could treat it kind of like a conference committee. If you've ever kind of like reviewed talks for a conference or something, where
Mhm.
here's a bunch of information. Let's all kind of like fan out, and I don't want to overly organize it because it's a whole job if you do that. But yeah, we could do a GitHub doc. We could also, I suppose, make GitHub issues like a GitHub issue per doc, but that seems kind of heavy.
Don't do that.
Okay.
I would say that it would probably be better to have a PR that people were, suggesting things on, and that, people were using comments on, than a GitHub issue per item. But I don't think the GitHub PR would be a great way to do it either. So don't take that as a do this. A spreadsheet might be a good option.
Sure. Okay. Well, so do we want to start with a spreadsheet then, or a Google Doc? Is it? I don't care
Up
either
to
way.
you three.
What do you think,
I am
Jen?
fine with a spreadsheet, honestly, where we can just catalog, essentially acting as a catalog of resources. And if we need to link it to a Google Doc to expand, I'm sure that we can.
Okay. One star.
The nice thing about using a spreadsheet is that you can sort it later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Like, oh God, help me if we have a 30-page doc that we then have to.
And then you're trying to move things up and down to get the good ones at the top.
Yeah.
And yeah.
All right, decided then. A Google Sheet it is.
Well, that feels like we have made some concrete progress here. So we've got this Zarf thing. I presume that the reference architecture item is probably delayed until after at least 1874 is complete.
Yeah, I mean, I
79.
already have some things that are working. But yeah, I think I should sequence it that way. So
That
at
makes
least,
sense to me.
yeah. There's also, and Mario's been on vacation and he's back last week, but I haven't had a chance to sync with him yet about the state of the CNCF efforts where they're actually generating, I believe, S-bombs, not collecting them. So I don't have a data point yet on that. Again, it's not a deliverable from this initiative, but it's a data point that can inform.
I mean, it would be interesting if they also have a collection of S-bombs to set up 2 of these instances, feed one with the S-bombs that we've found from the projects and the other with the CNCF generated ones, and see how things differ.
Yeah, I mean, I know he's using SPDX and that set of tools, but I don't know the details yet.
I mean, yes. Also, how you actually generate them can vary.
Yep, exactly. And what kind of S-bombs they are.
I think you can use bomb control from OpenSSF to translate one format into the other.
Cool.
So format should be less of an issue.
No, I meant like to what degree, like what's actually in the S-bomb? Like, is it just, like, does this have well, we don't have to get into it. Is it just an accounting of artifacts, or has it been enriched with other things too? Or more details?
Okay.
Cool. Is there anyone else that's interested in more of the technical tooling side? I've been running pretty quick and I'm to a point where I'd love another set of eyes. I was going to reach out to Brant because I know he's working on tooling too. I could do a demo probably next week of what I've got, but and if there's not interest in that, that's cool too.
Yeah, I could sync with you after and try to play with the tools.
Yeah, I've got some stuff that we could look at and poke with a stick. It probably won't be till later on this week. I'm finishing up some unrelated work for a meeting tomorrow around sandbox stuff. But yeah. I mean, would the intention be to land it, and now that we have a README and we have sort of our root file location, like I could start moving some of the stuff that.
If it makes sense, yes.
Okay.
And if we discover friction and so forth, then that seems like a great thing to report upstream.
Yeah, like I really wasn't sure about the implications of putting things in the TOC repo. Like, for example, some of the stuff in that Graptastic org, I dual licensed it, right? So that the document, because it's mostly docs, so that docs would be covered by Creative Commons because Apache doesn't cover docs. But like I don't know what it means to like land actual code in the TOC repo.
Let's start some PRs and find out.
Okay. We'll be trendsetters then. So,
I mean, someone's going to have to answer these questions anyway. There's no point in putting them off.
Okay. Well, I have contingency plans too. Like we could check. Yeah.
Sure, so but let's try plan A before we just immediately hop to plan B.
All right. Yeah, I mean, but most of my concerns were around like how quickly can we iterate, because these are still like quick and dirty tools and proof of concepts.
I have concerns about that too, but they're probably different concerns than yours.
Oh, what are your concerns?
We need 2 approvals in every PR,
Yeah.
and it may be difficult for us to manage any sort of CI tooling.
Yep. That was also one of my concerns too.
And those feel like things we should face early rather than just kind of avoiding.
Okay.
I mean, I know ways to solve all of those. Is TNCF and is TOC and CNCF interested in investing in solving them? We'll find out.
Yeah, like I just for one of the tools I'm working on that, it's actually, I could talk about it next week in more detail, but I was running straight into like, wow, GraphQL APIs as they are written in the wild, whether they're Guac or GitHubs, are kind of like they don't seem to be written for client UX in mind, right? So I made a little helper that will like interrogate a schema and help
Okay.
write
Yeah.
queries against it, right? So like a fast little thing like that, and then I made a bunch of tests for it, and so like I now have a thing that can be tested in CI. It's a minor utility that's really just a helper, So like right now, I could make a huge amount of progress in a couple days by just putting it under my own repo.
Well, and another
but
thing
like
that
as
you
soon
can
as I put it
do.
into the TOC repo, am I going to come into like a screeching halt of like,
So another thing you can do is you can publish it to NPM.
Yep.
Or wherever, and then you can import it as a dependency in the TOC repo.
So that's what I was alluding to, like as a workaround.
Yeah.
So I think that might be my first try, because then at least I can iterate on it.
Well, and then it's clear who we go to if there's a problem.
Yeah.
Like the ownership, and maintenance is clear and not just somebody in CNCF.
Yeah, it's another reason why that whole Graphtastic platform thing kind of takes a vendoring approach, right?
Yep.
So like
Well,
just wrapper scripts that will clone things in so that we can use them in the CNCF repo.
Let's address these when we get to them.
Okay. Cool.
But I think trying to check in your first collector of
that's
SBOM
an easy
data
thing.
will be a good test case for this.
Yeah, and it took all of like a day or so of investment. It's just a little bit of TypeScript. So
sure.
Yeah.
And you can keep the existing one somewhere else until you're happy with what's going on in CNCF TOC. Or until we discover that that's really not what we want to do.
Cool. So we're at 50. Do we want to return time to people?
I could use the time.
I could use the time too. So, right. Well, thanks for joining. Somebody had joined and then left and declined to say hi.
They said, "They're nice to virtually meet you all. Need to drop and we'll join again in the future."
I missed their chat. Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Great.
Right.
Thanks.
Bye.